It says something like internal error. No, I've done this tons of times. I'm sorry, just technical difficulties.
So
Okay, setting
we're
up.
live, right? Yeah, we're live on YouTube now. I can see the button. The button shows us live.
It says, okay, because it's saying redirecting to YouTube. Let me look at my YouTube channel real quick. Let me just make sure let's see. Because it's still saying that it's logging me in here.
It sounds like it might be a connection on your end through the
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yep, I see it. Okay. Let's go. Let me just, all right, perfect. We are, okay, so hello everyone, welcome to Nurse Charms Live. I am your host, Nurse Charms, and we are live. Sorry about the technical difficulties we had this morning. You know, we're doing a social distancing thing, so everyone, you know, we're doing Zoom and everything, so sometimes we have these technical difficulties, so bear with us. If you're watching this live, please share this video. We want to get this information out there. I have an exclusive interview with Chief Craig this morning, so I'm excited about that. Before we get started, I just want to give everyone a disclaimer that neither one of us are being endorsed. You know, I just put that out there. This information is for educational, informational purposes only. So with that being said, good morning, Chief Craig. How you doing? Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Nurse Charms. Thanks for inviting me to your show.
Yes, awesome. So I wanted to have you on here. One of the reasons why is because, you know, we have Inauguration Day coming up tomorrow, and on Sunday we saw some protesters here, you know, at our state capitol. So I just wanted to ask you, you know, have you got any word of anything going on a local level, or if you're doing any special preparation? Because, you know, you happen to keep us safe. You managed to keep us safe, you know, the past months when we had our own protesters here in Detroit.
Yes,
so
so we are working very closely with our federal, state, county partners, law enforcement. As I like to always say, we remain in a constant state of readiness. That said, we're constantly planning, getting intelligence. As you pointed out, there are no specific threats to the city of Detroit, no protests planned here in the city of Detroit, but that doesn't mean we're not ready. I certainly have assets on standby, so if we need to deploy very quickly to go in and address something, we can. We did it all summer. I'm certainly proud of the work of the men and women of the Detroit Police Department, who just have done a phenomenal job throughout 2020. And so you can expect nothing different right now. But again, there are no specific threats to Detroit.
Great. That's so awesome to hear. So just give us an overview of what you do. You know, everyone knows that you're the chief of police, but just give us a brief overview what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Right now, my job description is essentially the same, but as you can see, I do a lot more meetings through this technology platform, Zoom. I do a lot more interviews. One of the things that, you know, I'm very excited about is because of the work that this department has done all year, I've had a chance to share the Detroit story. And one big Detroit story is the fact that when we saw images across this country where cities were burning, there was looting, daily attacks on police officers, by and large here in Detroit, we had many days of peaceful protests. There were instances, 7 as I count, where our officers were attacked, police cars were damaged. But in comparison, this city did a phenomenal job, and everybody wanted to know, why didn't Detroit burn? Why? And I oftentimes tell folks it's because of the relationships we have with our community, relationship we have with our activist community, because they didn't want anything to do with the groups and the agitators, many of which who came from outside the city of Detroit, in some instances outside the state of Michigan.
Right. So with that being said, let's just get into the crime rates and what you've managed to do since you've took over the Detroit Police Department, how the crime rates have changed and improved, or can you talk a little bit about what you're doing as far as that?
Well, I'm now coming up with my 8th year here in Detroit, and we have seen a steady decline in our overall crime since I got here. Certainly, at the end of 2019, going into 2020, we started to see an uptick. At that point, and this was pre-pandemic, what we saw was a lot of violence associated with black market sales of marijuana and other drugs. That drove a lot of violence. So that's when we started to see a bit of an uptick. And then, of course, as you know, April, March, starting March, the pandemic hit. So that changed everything, not only for the city of Detroit, but across this nation. My colleagues who sit in other major cities as police chiefs, they also saw a significant rise in violence. Uh, and one homicide, one shooting is one too many. But when you compare our uptick to what we see in other cities, there's cities that are seeing a 50, 60% increase in homicide. We did end the year with a 19% increase in homicide. However, when you look at our overall crime, which is part one crime, that's violence and property, we saw a 13% reduction. And so in that sense, that's good news. But I will tell you, it's a challenge when you look at the impact the pandemic is having on driving violence. Certainly, I've talked a lot about my concerns with bail reform and the impact that has had, letting certain individuals back into our community that probably need to remain in custody. But that's causing us a bit of a challenge. And it's not happening just here in Detroit, but it's happening all
Right.
over the country.
Right. Well, that's good to hear. So I want to just give you a chance to address the scrutiny of Detroit law enforcement. It's important for Detroit Police Department to be transparent and deliver on their commitment to public safety. So just talk about just help reassure everyone. You all are doing your best in your commitment to safety, and just kind of.
But let me start out with this. One thing that I reject and will always reject when people lump law enforcement in one big bucket and paint the entire profession with a brush. It, that's just not the case. You can't compare uh, a Detroit to New York, or what happened, the unfortunate murder of Mr. Floyd. We're not that department.
No, you're not.
What we are, though, we are a department who has institutionalized the importance of community relationships, partnerships. And, the police departments will talk about it, many do, but really it doesn't start when something bad happens.
Right.
It's something that you do from the very beginning. And it's because of those relationships, and I touched on it a little bit. This is why Detroit didn't burn. And this is why this department has excelled in building trust-based relationships. Yes, we have shooting incidents here in the city of Detroit, but the key is transparency. I
Yes.
think that we have demonstrated each time that we get out in front of it. We don't wait days, weeks to talk about an officer involved shooting. This community has come to expect that we will give the information, good or bad. If it's
Right.
bad, we'll take responsibility for it. But in the end, that's what has built the kind of trust we see here in Detroit. And candidly, a lot of other departments want to know, what are you doing that's so different?
Right.
And it's really about integrity, and it's about being transparent and continuing to foster those good relationships.
Right. I never will forget over the summer, there was an incident and there were rumors spreading all over social media. You were quick to get on TV and do a press conference and, ease all of the, anxiety and worries and, tell the truth. And that transparency, I think, is just like you said, what has set, you apart, from other states?
Well, it's a little bit deeper than that, because as I've done, and you pointed it out, within 1 hour of that shooting, I did a news conference. 1 hour.
Right.
Within 45 minutes of my briefing, those agitators put out their own narration of what they said took place, and what they put out, frankly, was a lie. And what they put out is that we assassinated. I think we're getting some feedback somewhere. So
Right. So
We
with
are.
that being
I'm not-
said, let's just get
I'm not
into,
sure where that's coming
you
from.
know,
Let
the
me see.
crime rates and what you've managed to do since you took over the Detroit Police Department. You know how the crime.
I'm gonna try to go continue through it. I can hear it, but so
Yeah, you
anyway,
can hear me. Oh,
I got you. So the long and short of it is this, Ms. Charms. We stayed out in front of it, and when the false narrative was put out, we were able to put out the truth. The videos that depicted that this young man attacked our officer, and that's how we survived it. That's what factually took place. Was a lot of violence. I don't know what's going on, but it's. I hope.
yep. I hear you.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the point.
That's
the point I wanted to make.
Okay. So another question I wanted to talk to you about, because I see many activists, advocating for you on social media, saying good things about you. So, you don't normally see that in other states and with other chief of police. So, what are you doing to, maintain this relationship with the community?
Right.
I know you talked about your transparency, but how have you been able to be so successful at maintaining these relationships, with the grassroots community and the activist community?
Well, again, and I touched on it, you don't wait for something bad to happen to reach out and touch members of the activist community. The relationship starts from the very beginning. I have sat down at the table with many of our local activists to talk about the issues that concern them most, working together as partners. And so when we saw the events unfold this summer and the attacks on the police officers, all we did was reach out and touch our friends. And I do consider them our friends. And we haven't always agreed, and they will tell you that. But I think is what's magical and so different is that we can disagree respectfully. And by God, the country should take a lesson from our relationship. But we can disagree respectfully, but we all have the same goal. And that goal is working for our community. I view our activists as public servants as well. They're out on the ground. They're working very closely with the community. They care about the community. It's so many I could thank. I would run out of time doing it, but they stood with us. They marched with us when we were out there trying to manage the protest, because our goal was to make sure that those who were peacefully protesting, that they would be safe throughout the days and weeks of protest.
Right. Yes, I remember that. You had your officers out there right along with the police, right along with the community, people and all the citizens.
Absolutely.
And just showed a sign of solidarity. It's like, we understand, yes, Black Lives Matter. Matter of fact, I seen one of your officers even take a knee. So that right there is very symbolic. So we're going on a year now with this COVID-19 pandemic. What challenges have you faced at the police department? And talk about some of the, well, first go ahead with that question.
Yeah, because I know we're getting close on time, so I want to kind of wrap up through it, because I think it's very substantial. When we look at 2020, certainly myself as a COVID survivor, the fact that we had 650 officers or members of our department quarantined, certainly that's a substantial impact.
Yes.
Imagine that. So we had to very quickly redeploy officers from our support units in the department, like our investigative function, and put everybody back in uniform, because the most important thing that we can do is for us to respond to emergency calls for service. That's number one, first and foremost. We did that. And so we began to manage the pandemic inside of our organization, and we were able to redeploy our officers back into those support functions, which are equally as important. So very happy about how that worked out.
Good, good, good. And I'm a business owner, and there's a lot of business owners, on shutdown right now. Some have actually defied the orders and doing their own things. I just want to have you address real quick. What are some of the civil infractions that people could possibly face, and just talk about how important it is that unfortunately we do have to maintain the orders.
Yeah, as you know, we don't take the lead on that, but we support when enforcement has to be taken. And so at this point, it's really not an issue. Most folks we warn, they comply. But I mean, worst case scenario, you're shut down and you're met with hefty fines. But we haven't had much of an issue here in the city of Detroit, not at all.
Right. Yeah, that's what I kind of want to know. Has it even been an issue? People have been pretty much,
Yeah, people have been, for the most part, compliant. There have been some after-hour places that community members will call us. We'll go out, investigate, and then once we do that, we take appropriate action.
Yeah. So as leader of the department, what have you been doing to just kind of calm some of the anxiety that's been going on and some of the uncertainty, just with this whole pandemic? What have you done to step up as a leader and help?
We do it every single day, Nurse Charms. I think I've touched on the fact that we, my police officers come to work despite the pandemic. They come to work even though there's been increased violence directed at police officers. By and large, I have an opportunity to meet with and talk with community members daily that I may cross paths with. They're very satisfied with the work that we're doing and excited that we're doing what we're doing, because it's set a tone for the city. We still have many challenges associated with the pandemic, and those challenges are not unique to Detroit, but just the level of violence today, the inability of people to manage a dispute.
Right.
That quickly erupts into someone resorting to using a gun. So,
right.
Anyway, I just want to say as I close, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I hope we can come back soon and give you some updates. But again, enjoyed this brief time together, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, I really appreciate you. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the morning.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're welcome.
Bye.